Imagine a ship so grand, so advanced, that people genuinely believed it could never sink. Yet less than 3 hours after striking ice, that same unsinkable ship lay broken on the floor of the Atlantic. This is the story of RMS Titanic, how the world's greatest symbol of safety and luxury became one of history's greatest warnings. On 10th April 1912, RMS Titanic set out on her maiden voyage from Southampton, England to New York. At the time, she was the largest and most luxurious ship ever built, about 269 meters long and more than 53 meters high. On board were all kinds of people, wealthy industrialists and famous figures, and also poor immigrants chasing the promise of a better life in America. Commanding the ship was 62-year-old Captain Edward John Smith, a senior and highly respected captain. Visual interiors, grand staircase, dining rooms. Titanic had cost around $7.5 million to build, a sum that would reach hundreds of millions today. Inside, it surpassed even five-star hotels. Stained glass, intricate wood paneling, grand staircases, a heated swimming pool, Turkish and electric baths, a gym, a squash court, 4 restaurants, 2 barbershops, and a library. But the most remarkable feature wasn't the luxury, it was the confidence. Titanic's hull had a double bottom, and it was divided into 16 watertight compartments. Even if several compartments flooded, the ship was expected to stay afloat. The company behind Titanic, White Star Line, was so proud of these safety features that its vice president publicly boasted, "This ship was unsinkable." 2 days into the voyage on April 12th, Titanic began receiving ice warnings. The North Atlantic route she followed was filled with floating ice and towering icebergs, potentially deadly obstacles. These warnings weren't unusual. Ships regularly used radio to alert others of ice in their path. Titanic adjusted her course twice in response, but one thing didn't change: her speed. She kept moving at about 21.5 knots, roughly 40 kilometers per hour, pushing ahead toward New York. On April 14th, more warnings arrived, 7 in total. Still, Captain Smith and his officers did not slow down. As evening fell on the 14th of April, the conditions became more dangerous. The temperature dropped. There was no moon that night, no moonlight to help spot obstacles. The sea was unusually calm, with few waves breaking against any ice ahead. Spotting an iceberg in these conditions was extremely difficult. High above the deck, in the ship's crow's nest, a lookout named Frederick Fleet stood exposed to freezing winds. The cold made his eyes water, further reducing his ability to see. At 11:39 p.m., Fleet saw it, a massive, dark shape looming directly ahead, an iceberg. He rang the bell 3 times in quick succession and called the bridge, "Iceberg right ahead." First Officer William Murdoch reacted instantly, ordering the engines reversed and the helm turned to avoid the obstacle. But Titanic was enormous and traveling fast. There was almost no time. At 11:40 p.m., just 1 minute later, the iceberg grazed along Titanic's starboard right side. For about 10 seconds, ice tore along the hull near the bow, the forward part of the ship. This was no ordinary chunk of ice. The iceberg was estimated to be as large as a football field, rising high enough to match the height of the crow's nest and weighing around 1.5 million tons. How could ice damage metal? At this size and weight, the iceberg acted like a massive, unyielding wall. The collision dented the hull and opened small but deadly tears along the side. Captain Smith and the ship's architect, Thomas Andrews, quickly inspected the damage. What they discovered shocked them. The iceberg had torn open 6 of Titanic's 16 watertight compartments. The ship's double-bottom hull only protected the underside. Along the sides, there was just a single layer of steel. The design could handle up to 4 flooded compartments, but 6 were now filling with icy water. The unsinkable ship was going to sink. About 20 minutes after the collision, at midnight, Captain Smith ordered a distress call. Senior wireless operator Jack Phillips began sending out urgent messages, one after another, hoping some nearby ship would hear them. At 12:20 a.m., the passenger liner, or MS Carpathia, picked up Titanic's distress signal. Its operator spoke to Titanic and alerted his captain. Carpathia immediately changed course and rushed to help, but there was a problem. Carpathia was about 107 kilometers away. Even at top speed, it would take around 3.5 hours to reach Titanic. On Titanic, crew members fired flares and rockets into the night sky, hoping other ships might see them and come to help. None did. Only Carpathia responded. Meanwhile, Captain Smith ordered the lifeboats to be prepared. Protocol was clear: women and children first. But at that moment, many passengers still didn't understand the danger. They believed the myth: Titanic could not sink. Some thought getting into a small open boat in the freezing night was more dangerous than staying on this giant ship. The result was tragic. The first lifeboat to be lowered had space for about 65 people. Only 28 actually got in. Half the boat went down empty. As time passed, more water poured into the forward compartments. Titanic's bow sank lower and lower. The ship began to tilt. By around 1 a.m., the incline was clear. The bow was dipping underwater, and the stern, the rear of the ship, was rising. Massive propellers lifted out of the sea. Now the truth became impossible to ignore. Titanic was sinking. Panic erupted. People ran, pushed, and fought for spaces in the remaining lifeboats. But there was another terrible reality. Even if every boat left full, there still weren't enough. Titanic carried only 20 lifeboats, enough for about 1,200 people. On board were roughly 2,200. At 2:05 a.m., the last lifeboat left the ship. Around 1,500 people were still stranded on Titanic. Some tried desperately to jump or cling to anything that floated. Others accepted their fate and remained on board. Eyewitnesses later described the final scenes as chaotic and heartbreaking. People crying, praying, and struggling to reach the last boats. At about 2:20 a.m., Titanic broke in two and slipped beneath the surface. The unsinkable ship had sunk in less than 3 hours. Those left in the water faced another killer: hypothermia. The ocean temperature was around -2 degrees Celsius. In such water, a person can die within minutes. It's said that Captain Edward Smith stayed at his post until the very end and went down with his ship. Some accounts even suggest he may have taken his own life. Between 3:30 and 4 a.m., RMS Carpathia finally reached the area. It found lifeboats and bodies. For most of Titanic's passengers, help had come too late. After the disaster, investigations uncovered a disturbing fact. Another ship had been much closer to Titanic that night, the SS Californian, only about 37 kilometers away. An hour before Titanic struck the iceberg, Californian had warned her by radio. There were many icebergs ahead. Then at 11:15 p.m., Californian's radio operator switched off his set and went to bed. The ship stopped for the night, surrounded by ice. Because the radio was off, Californian never received Titanic's distress calls. Passengers and officers on Titanic could see a ship on the horizon. One officer even reassured people, saying that a nearby ship would surely come to help. But that ship never moved. Reports later claimed that crew members on Californian actually saw the rockets fired from Titanic after midnight. They informed their captain, Stanley Lord, but he decided they were not distress signals, perhaps just a ship having a party. If Californian had treated those rockets as a call for help and pushed through the ice, many more lives might have been saved. By the time its radio was turned on the next morning and the crew learned of Titanic's SOS, it was too late. When Californian reached the area, it found only bodies in the water. Official inquiries heavily criticized Captain Lord, but they also concluded that this disaster had many causes and many people at fault. Blame did not rest on one man alone. Titanic did not have enough lifeboats because the company believed they were barely needed on an unsinkable ship. Lifeboats were seen more as an inconvenience on the deck than a true safety requirement. A safety drill had actually been scheduled for the very day Titanic hit the iceberg. Captain Smith canceled it, thinking it was unnecessary. There were questions about what happened at the wheel as well. When the iceberg was spotted, the officer on deck ordered the ship turned one way, but in the panic, the helmsman reportedly misunderstood and turned the wrong way, toward the iceberg. By the time the mistake was corrected, it was too late. And then there was the question of speed. Despite repeated iceberg warnings, Titanic continued at near top speed. Why? One popular explanation is pressure from Joseph Bruce Ismay, the chairman and managing director of White Star Line. It's said that he urged Captain Smith to maintain speed so Titanic could complete her first voyage in just 6 days, breaking records and proving that she was not only the largest and most luxurious ship in the world, but also one of the fastest. On the afternoon of the 14th of April, when another ice warning came in, Captain Smith reportedly showed it to Ismay and suggested slowing down. Instead of sharing the message with passengers and crew, Ismay is said to have simply pocketed the warning. The ship sped on into the darkness. Titanic's sinking changed maritime history forever. In 1914, an international ice patrol was created to monitor icebergs and warn ships in dangerous waters. A major treaty, the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS, set strict new standards. Among them, ships must carry enough lifeboats for every passenger on board. For more than 70 years, Titanic's wreck lay undiscovered on the ocean floor. Then in September 1985, an American ocean explorer, Robert Ballard, and a French oceanographer finally found her, about 3,800 meters below the surface. The ship lay in two main pieces, roughly 600 meters apart. Over time, the wreck has continued to decay. Bacteria and other organisms are slowly eating away the metal. Some scientists believe that by around 2030, Titanic's remains may be almost completely disintegrated. Yet even as the ship itself disappears, fascination with Titanic refuses to sink. In 2012, an Australian billionaire, Clive Palmer, announced plans to build Titanic 2, a near replica of the original ship, sailing the same route. The plan promised to recreate many details of the historic liner, but the project has faced repeated delays, and interest in traveling on an exact copy, without modern comforts like widespread TV and Wi-Fi, has been questionable. In a way, the dream of a second unsinkable Titanic may already have gone down. More than a century later, Titanic still haunts our imagination, not just as a tragedy, but as a lesson. A ship built to be unsinkable, pushed to impress the world, sailing at full speed through a field of ice. Warnings ignored, drills canceled, lifeboats missing, and a nearby rescue that never came. Titanic reminds us that no matter how advanced our technology or how confident our claims, nature, chance, and human error can still combine in ways we never expect. In the end, it isn't just the ship that sank. It was the idea that we are ever completely safe from our own overconfidence.